and welcome. My name is Angela Thompson, and I appreciate you joining me. Today I'd like to share a project with you on behalf of tinypandora.com. Let's begin. If you have a form that will work for the egg shape, you can skip this part. I didn't have one that was quite the right depth or angle for the curvature on the side, so I'm just going to make one with a toilet paper or paper towel roll. This is painter's tape, and I'm using it sticky side up so it will grab the paper towel roll when I press it onto it. I'm going to just cut the roll right up the middle and then press it to secure it onto the tape. And what I'm looking for is it to open it up and kind of cup the egg shape to make a little trinket dish. I'm going to show you a different angle here so you can see how those sides are looking. I'm just going to press it at along each side until I get it to where it's opened up wide enough, and the painter's tape will grip the toilet paper roll there pretty tightly so you don't have to worry about it closing as it bakes. Once you're happy with your shape, go ahead and give it a bake for about 30 minutes. And then start conditioning your pieces for filling in your Sutton slice. You want your clay to be very well conditioned. The softer it is, the easier it will be to work with. We're going to start filling in this texture sheet that I'm going to use for a Sutton slice. I'm going to do it one color at a time, pressing really firmly into the sheet until I have filled in the cavity. And then I'm going to use a tissue blade held at an angle against the surface of the texture sheet to gently shave away the clay. And I'm going to do this for each of the colors that I'm working with. I'm going to fill it in and shave off each section one at a time. Take your time with it. If you shave it and you see that you've missed areas of the design, you can always go back in and redo it and go over those areas. Just make sure that you press the clay in really tightly when you go back over it so it doesn't pull what's already there out. So now I'm going to use my blade and I'm going to hold it against the top of the texture mat, but it's a little bit of a curve to the blade so I can swoop it across the top and pick up the clay that isn't recessed. If you've ever done a makumigane slicing by hand after building the block, it's real similar to that. You just want to control the blade so it doesn't gouge into the texture mat, just like you would keep it level when you were making a manual slice off of a makumigane. So I'm going to keep doing all the different colors and trimming off the excess and moving from one color to the other only when I'm done. That way it gives me less chance to pull what's already there out or to contaminate one color with another. Continue shaping it until you have your entire design exposed. Remember, you can go back and fill in any sections that pull up or were overlooked. Just take your time with it. Now prepare your veneer that you want to use for the top of your dish. I'm going to use the turquoise granite Primo, and this is the new mauve from Primo as well. I have mixed in a little bit of Primo's gray granite to it, just to give it a speckled look because I liked the way that looked together. You can make your sheet any color you want, stripes, any kind of veneer you want, just whatever you think would look good behind the Sutton slice mat that you've chosen to use for your design. By putting the clay side by side like this and burnishing across the top of it, I'm just giving it some heat and helping it connect and secure together. That way when I lift it off of this wax paper to put it on top of the dish, it doesn't separate or come apart. You can either do this face up or face down. Either way works the same, really. You just decide which way you have more control over. I like to start it on the top and then I will flip it over and lift the mat off of the clay veneer. But I do like to start it with the clay on top because I can feel it a little bit easier with my finger and the pressure to know when it's getting a good grab and a good connection with the top of the mat. So burnish it, take your time with it. You don't want to press it too hard to distort your veneer. But you also want to get a very solid connection. I'm just going to peel it back a little bit and check, and then that will let me know when I'm ready to actually release everything, and I can flip it over and try it. Once you start lifting the texture mat, if you notice that sections of your veneer or your Sutton slice rather are not removing and coming onto the veneer, just simply let your texture mat fall back into place and work it a little bit more. The heat and the pressure combined will help those two pieces mold together to make it release a little bit cleaner. You can also slightly stretch your texture mat when you're pulling it, and that helps it release the clay that's within the texture mat to form your Sutton slice. When you pull it like that, it's releasing it from the edges, and that allows it just to grab it a little bit easier. There's little bits that are not releasing, and that's okay. I'm just going to let it fall back in place. I'm not trying to pull it one way or the other. I'm just letting it go right back into where I just picked it up from. And I'm going to flip it over and apply a little bit more pressure on those areas to encourage those tiny, tiny little details to release. The flower has a lot of different little parts that actually make it up, and I want to make sure that I get as many of those off as I can. Okay, that came out very well. It didn't pick up everything, but it got 99% of it, I think. So now I'm just going to decide how best to cut out that design. I want it completely centered, so that's the way I'm going to clip it. I don't want to risk distortion, so I'm actually going to remove the clay from the cutter instead of removing the cutter from the clay. Remember to use your blade when you're lifting off of the ceramic tile and even off of the parchment paper. That way you don't have any distortion. Trim any cutter marks or blend them back in. And then I'm going to use some liquid translucent Sculpey clay, but you can use Bake and Bond. Any kind of liquid clay will work, or poly paste. Just put a light coating on the top of the dish and work that around. And then we're going to apply the veneer to the dish and smooth it, being very careful to press out any air bubbles. Once I have it on and I'm sure that there's no more air trapped underneath and it's all smooth to the edges, I'm going to use a soft texture sponge and go across the entire surface. I'm not smooshing hard enough to distort the Sutton slice, but I am applying the texture to it as well. Once you have it textured, you can either bake it and then put the back veneer on, or you can bake it all at one time. I'm heavy-handed, so I'm going to go ahead and bake it for 30 minutes just so I make sure I'm not squishing anything. Then I'm going to put some more liquid Sculpey on the back, spread it around, and apply the reverse. And I'm going to use the texture mat on the edges of that as well to ensure that the edges are nicely blended and that it looks like a cohesive piece. Now I'm going to use the same texture sponge and make sure that the edges have a nice finished look to them so they're joined and they look cohesive. And then I'm going to roll out a log, cut off 3 equal sections, and then roll those into balls to make footers for the dish. I am just going to put them in an odd triangle pattern on the tile and then set the dish on top of them. I found that that works really good with that shape, and that's what I'm going to use. It's raw clay to raw clay. We don't need any liquid clay. I'm going to press them down firmly. Make sure that it's setting level and that your legs are the same height. And then I'm going to bake it for 1 hour. Thanks for watching. You know where to find me. See you soon. Bye.